If you are a brand new product manager or a new member of a product squad and Jira feels a bit intimidating, don't worry. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what Jira is, how it's structured, and how to find your way around. We'll cover what words like project, board, issue, workflow, and dashboard mean in super plain English, and I'll show you some real examples of what they look like. At its core, Jira is simply a tool for organising work. It helps you plan, manage and deliver your product deliveries. It doesn't tell you how to do that. You could be delivering in Scrum or Kanban or Waterfall. It doesn't care. It just allows you to visualise that work and organise it. There are lots of great tools for organising your work and communicating between teams. And I think sometimes Jira gets a really bad rap because it looks so intimidating. But the reason for that is it's a super powerful tool. It can do a lot and you can configure it to make it completely personalized for your project. Now I'm going to show you today my own personal experiences. These are what I found practically from using it over the years. But I'm hoping that will help you get started and work out what you want to do with it. So here we are. This is Jira. I have just created a brand new Jira account for this video. So I've just started it and clicked a few buttons to set up a new project. So firstly, what is a project and where can you find it? On the left-hand side, you can see a lot of different information, but one of those says projects. Now I'm going to close that and open it just so you can see that. And this project is called My Scrum Project. Not the best name necessarily, it's actually one that Jira default created it as, but effectively a project is where all your work is going to be stored. Often this will be the product name. So say you're creating a website, maybe this project is called website, or an app, you call it app. Sometimes people will use it differently to that, but let's think of it in those terms. This is your area for everything you want to do related to building, maintaining, developing that product. So within a project, you have a number of different work items. Jira calls these issues. Now you can see actually there's a couple being showed here already. One that is called task 1 and has a reference of Scrum 1 on here, and another that says task 2 and a reference of Scrum 2. If you look carefully, you'll see a slight difference between these, which is this icon next to it. If I hover over that, you'll see this one says task and this one says story. Now, you can decide how you might use these different types of issues, but most projects that I've worked on will use a story to describe a user story. So let's, for instance, rename this task that says 2. We could say, as a new user, I want to register for the website so that I can log in. You may have your own opinions on how good that story looks, but effectively that's the kind of thing you might see under the story. Now I've just edited the title for this, what it's called, but it's still Scrum 2. So why? Well, Scrum 2 is just its reference. This is what the item is in terms of your backlog. It doesn't really matter anything apart from it's a unique reference, which means this will always exist as an item, even if you change what it's there for. Even if I make this a different user story, it's still Scrum 2. Now task, typically I've used this to create other tasks that aren't directly delivering a story. Maybe they're technical activities or something similar. So you might put something in here like establish your database, for instance. I'm not going to rename it, so you get the idea. And you can actually look at various different items. Now, there are a number of work items being listed on here, and you can go and edit them and tweak them, but I'm not going to go into that in this video. Instead, what I want to explain is now why are we looking at these in this order? You can see this looks a bit like a Kanban board. You've got backlog, to do, in progress, testing and done. And you see at the top it says board. Now, what a board is a filter on a particular set of issues. So for this project that's been set up, basically this board is showing any issues that are in the first sprint. You can see it looks like a sprint the way it's been set up. It even says complete sprint. But if I go to backlog on the left, you can see there is more items that can be in here. So we've seen these 2 items already under Scrum Sprint 0, which is the name of this first sprint. You can see when I'm creating this video, it's set up as a 2-week sprint automatically. It's also set up a placeholder for the first sprint after this, so Scrum Sprint 1. And it's also got an area called backlog. And it's got another task in here. Now, if I drag this item from the backlog up here, it's going to move that work item into the current sprint. If I then move over to the board, you'll see it should appear in the to-do column because I've now moved this into the sprint and this board is showing the current sprint. I hope that makes sense. So the backlog can have all of your work items and you can order it however you want. This has been set up as a Scrum board, so it's got a number of sprints and you can start adding more sprints or work items within them. And the board is showing the current sprint, so that you can manage your work and not get too diluted. Now, what we can do as well is we can drill further into a particular issue. So let's go back to this issue, Scrum 2, the user story that I defined a bit. And I'm going to click on here. I've just clicked on the unique ID, and it's launched this into a full screen. And in here, I can add loads of details about this. So I've got this user story. I could describe what I mean by this. I could put acceptance criteria in here. And I can also have subtasks. There might be some design tasks here. There might be some development tasks. And I can then assign those subtasks, all the things that need to be done to complete this story, to a person. I can also put this as assigned to a person too, as an overall story. Maybe that's the overall product owner for a project. Maybe it's someone else. And you see you can do that by clicking the assignee. Now I'm going to just assign this to me as an example. But I'm also then going to assign this subtask to me. So I now own subtask 2.1, which I could rename to whatever that is. And then I've got this as an assignee. So you get to start understanding how these projects link and relate to each other. I'm now going to just explain how this has been defined, that the fact that you want to go from backlog to to-do, to in progress, to testing, to done as well, because that might not be the actual way that your team wants to operate. And the way you can define this is through workflows. Now, if I go to these ellipses here, these 3 dots, I can actually manage the workflow for a sprint. And you'll see if I go into here, it will describe what it expects to happen. So if I create a brand new item, a new issue, whether that's a user story, a task, or something else, then it will automatically put that into the backlog. And then I'm manually then moving it over to do testing and done or in progress. These are actually unconnected as it starts. But you could decide that this should go to different places. So if I wanted, I could say that every new item doesn't go to backlog. It goes to in progress, for instance. That's one way it could work. I'm going to put that back to backlog. But you can actually start defining the links of how things are expected to move. So if you complete in progress, what would happen? When would it go to it to do, to testing, to done, etc. And let's get out of here. It's taking me into project settings for some reason from there, but here I am back at my board. Now you've got a few other things on here. I'm not going to go into all of these on this video. This is meant to be for beginners and to give you a bit of an intro, but hopefully you get the idea of that. Now, the one other thing I wanted to show you is, let's go to summary for a second. This is actually something fairly new from my memory. When I first started using Jira, I don't remember them having this summary view. But you can see there's an area where you can see some general activities that are going on. Things like a breakdown of the types of work. For instance, we've got 50% of our work items are stories, 25% are tasks, 25% are subtasks. Maybe that's interesting to you, maybe that's not. But at the moment, we've got these 4 items, and that's their distribution. You can also see how much of the work has been assigned to people. 50% has been assigned to me, 50% unassigned. But you might want to create your own view of information too. And what Jira is great at doing is having a load of work items that people are working on, these issues, and allowing you to see information from different views. What I always do on my projects is I will go and define what I want to see in a dashboard. So you can find dashboards here on the left hand side, and I can click dashboards and I can create my own dashboard. It's got a placeholder here that says default dashboard, for instance. But I could start putting a load of different information in here. Now, within a dashboard, I might want to see lots of different stuff. Again, it's put some examples in here, but I actually can go and create lots of different things on this dashboard. If I click edit in the top right hand side, I can add gadgets. And basically what gadgets allow you to do is to view information. So if I wanted to see, for instance, a gadget that shows how many days are remaining in the sprint, I could add that. You see this pops up with some information that I can define. What board am I looking at, for instance? How often do I want it to automatically refresh if I want it to? Then make it refresh every 15 minutes. I keep this quite simple and press save just to give you an idea of how this works. You see it's got 9 days remaining. It's created a sprint automatically. Maybe this is something I want to be reminded at each time. I can see all kinds of stuff in the dashboard, and this is where I can configure that, make it available to me. I can also share it with other people too. What do we cover? We've got a project. Not often it's the name of your product. Within that project, if I go to backlog, you can see you've got lots of different issues, which are your items of work, and they can have different types, like a story, a task. There are others too, bugs, etc. And then you can have a board, which then shows a particular filtered view of that. In this case, it's your current sprint, and this is managed by a workflow which has been defined to go from backlog to to-do to in progress to testing to done. And then if I wanted to see this at a macro level, everything that's going on, I can go and create a dashboard which will tell me information about what's going on as I want to see it. So that is Jira in a nutshell: projects, boards, issues, workflows, and dashboards. I hope that gave you a practical understanding of how it works and how you could get started. But my main tip for you is you don't need to master everything from day one. Get some of the basics right, get a bit of a structure in there, and then adapt it as your team adapts. Fingers crossed this was really useful and helped make Jira a lot less scary for you. If you did find it helpful, then I'd love it if you could like the video, but also think about subscribing to the channel. I'm a product manager. I'm sharing a lot of my tips, tricks, my practical experience for new product managers, but also people that are looking to up their game. So if that sounds of interest to you, why not subscribe? If you are finding Jira particularly confusing, if there's a particular area that you'd like to get help on, maybe leave that in a comment below. What's always confused you or got you stuck? I'd love to know so I can maybe make more videos like this to help out. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon.